Welcome back to Nation of Glory. Today, we take you on a journey through the remarkable life of one of Hollywood's most legendary figures, a man whose presence on screen has captivated audiences for decades, and whose talent behind the camera has given us some of the most powerful films in cinema history. He is more than an actor, more than a director, he is a living symbol of grit, resilience, and artistry. His name is Clint Eastwood Jr., but the world knows him simply as Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's story is one of perseverance, transformation, and timeless impact. Born on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California, Eastwood came into a world that was still feeling the effects of the Great Depression. His childhood was modest, and his family moved often in search of work, sometimes struggling just to make ends meet. Yet those early challenges shaped the toughness and determination that would later define him both on and off screen. As a boy, Clint was tall, quiet, and often shy, but he carried within him an intensity and presence that others could sense. He wasn't the kind of student teachers thought would grow up to be a Hollywood star. In fact, Eastwood struggled academically and even worked odd jobs in his youth to support himself. At one point, he worked as a lifeguard, at another, he dug swimming pools. He lived life grounded in reality, learning the value of hard work, long before he ever stood in front of a camera. After graduating high school, Eastwood was drafted into the United States Army during the Korean War. Though he never saw direct combat, his time in the military toughened him up and gave him discipline that would remain with him for life. It was during these years that the idea of pursuing acting slowly began to take shape. He didn't have connections, he didn't have training, but he had something that couldn't be taught: presence. In the mid-1950s, Eastwood began his pursuit of acting. At first, the road was far from glamorous. He landed bit parts, small appearances in films and TV shows, nothing that hinted at the massive career ahead. Yet he kept going, never letting rejection or minor roles discourage him. And then came his first real breakthrough, Rawhide. The Western television series Rawhide gave Clint Eastwood his first taste of fame. He played Rowdy Yates, a role that showed off his rugged charm and quiet intensity. The show became a hit, running for several years, and Eastwood became a familiar face in American households. But even with success on TV, Clint wanted more. He had his eyes on the big screen, and his chance came from across the ocean. In the mid-1960s, Clint Eastwood was offered a role in an Italian Western, directed by a then, relatively unknown filmmaker named Sergio Leone. The film was a fistful of dollars. Eastwood played a character who would forever change his career: the mysterious, stoic gunslinger known as the Man with No Name. With his poncho, his steely glare, and his few but powerful words, Eastwood created an image that would become iconic. The film was a massive success in Europe, and soon it spread across the world. Eastwood returned for 2 sequels for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. These 3 films became known as the Dollars Trilogy, and they didn't just make Clint Eastwood a star, they made him an international legend. Audiences were mesmerized by his toughness, his charisma, and his ability to command the screen with silence, as much as with words. The Man with No Name wasn't just a character, it was a cultural phenomenon, and Clint Eastwood was at its center. By the late 1960s, Clint Eastwood had become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He transitioned smoothly into American films, bringing with him the cool, unshakable demeanor that had made him famous overseas. But Eastwood wasn't satisfied with just being a star, he wanted to tell stories in his own way. And so, he began his journey as a director. In 1971, he directed his first film, Play Misty for Me. It was a psychological thriller that showcased his interest in exploring human emotions, fears, and obsessions. That same year, he also took on another career-defining role: Inspector Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry. With the line, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" Eastwood created yet another cinematic legend. Dirty Harry was tough, unrelenting, and willing to cross lines that others wouldn't, and audiences loved him. The character became one of the most enduring action figures in movie history, spawning multiple sequels and solidifying Eastwood's reputation as the ultimate tough guy. Yet behind that tough exterior was an artist with depth, intelligence, and vision. As a director, Clint Eastwood continued to grow. He directed westerns like High Plains Drifter and The Outlaw Josie Wales, films that were not just about gunfights and outlaws, but about morality, justice, and the human condition. He proved that he wasn't just an actor who stepped behind the camera, he was a filmmaker with a voice and something meaningful to say. The 1980s and 1990s saw Eastwood continue to balance acting and directing, with films like Sudden Impact, Pale Rider, and Heartbreak Ridge. But it was in 1992 that he delivered one of the greatest films of his career, Unforgiven. This film wasn't just another Western, it was a deconstruction of the genre itself. Eastwood starred as an aging gunslinger drawn back into a violent world he thought he had left behind. The film was raw, emotional, and deeply human. Unforgiven won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood, cementing his place not only as a Hollywood legend, but as one of its greatest filmmakers. What makes Clint Eastwood's journey so powerful is his refusal to be defined by one role, one genre, or one moment. He constantly reinvented himself, challenging expectations and pushing boundaries. In the 2000s, he gave us Mystic River, $1 Million Baby, Letters from Iwo Jima, and Gran Torino. Each of these films touched audiences in different ways, proving that Eastwood was as capable of exploring deep emotional stories as he was of delivering high-intensity action. $1 Million Baby, in particular, became one of the most emotional films of his career, telling the story of a determined female boxer and her complicated relationship with her trainer. The film won multiple Academy Awards, including another Best Director win for Eastwood. At an age when most people would consider slowing down, Clint Eastwood was reaching new artistic heights. Even in his later years, Eastwood never stopped working. Films like American Sniper, Sully, Richard Jewell, and Cry Macho showed that his storytelling power remained as strong as ever. Each film reflected his unique perspective, grounded, honest, and deeply human. Clint Eastwood's life is not just the story of a Hollywood actor or director, it's the story of a man who turned obstacles into opportunities, who stayed true to himself, and who never stopped creating. He has given the world unforgettable characters, powerful stories, and timeless lessons about strength, resilience, and authenticity. Beyond the awards, beyond the fame, Eastwood's legacy lies in the emotions he has stirred in audiences for over 6 decades. He has entertained us, inspired us, and made us reflect on the world we live in. Whether as the man with no name, Dirty Harry, or the visionary behind the camera, Clint Eastwood remains one of the greatest legends in the history of cinema. This is the story of Clint Eastwood Jr., a man who became more than a star, more than a director. He became an icon, a storyteller, and a symbol of timeless artistry. Thank you for watching Nation of Glory. If you enjoyed this journey through the life of Clint Eastwood, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories of the legends who shaped Hollywood and continue to inspire the world. Until next time, thank you for being with us.